Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Thomas Frank as their new head coach.
And the consistency and the players know the patterns. But of course I'm aware that we need to be flexible sometimes.
You look what Thomas Frank has done over the course of 7 highly successful years, you can understand why Tottenham would be interested.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at Stedka. This is episode 242, coming to you a day late, but not a dollar short. We've got Caroline alongside. She is at CG Stefko. Caroline, what's going on with you this week?
Well, later this week, I'm going to my first in-person NWSL game, so I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. Who are you seeing?
I'm seeing Racing Louisville versus Kansas City Current.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
So should be a good time. Otherwise, not too much.
Very exciting. Very exciting. TC is also here. He is at TC_Show. What's going on, my man? How are you? Oh, hold on. We got to get TC's mic unmuted real quick. There we go. TC, what's going on, man?
Somebody muted
That was me.
I don't know.
That was
Any
me. I'm
day,
responsible.
Any day, sir. Any day that you can get together with some mates and chat about good old Tottenham Hotspur is a good day. It's a special day for me as well because, as we'll talk about, our beloved Sonny landing spot may be closer to me than to most folks listening to this, which is kind of cool.
Tis true. We will come on to it. If you're watching on video on youtube.com/Tottenham Depot, you'll see that I'm not in my normal spot. I am currently in my father's basement recording this podcast, visiting him on the East Coast this week. As I mentioned on previous episodes, I'm going to be doing a little bit of travel over the next week. So the podcasts are coming when they come. And, you get what you pay for around here at the Tottenham Depot. So that's the satisfaction that we will provide for you. Guys, Spurs played 2 friendlies this weekend on the same day, which is not something I thought you could do, but obviously you can spread the minutes out. And that is certainly what Tottenham Hotspur did. They played a 2-2 match against Wickham, in which Pop Sarr scored a brace and then played a really, really dull goalless draw at Luton Town. And basically there was nothing to learn from either of these matches, if I'm being completely honest. This was, I did, definitely watched a good bit of the Luton game because I was up and I was doing nothing else. And I figured, what the hell, I'll flip this on. And I'm kind of sorry that I did, because not only is Spurs play just not the greatest place to watch a game, a lot of technological flare-ups that we are dealing with for a paid service, but that feels like a rant
garbage, Andrew.
Yeah, that feels like a rant for another day. But it was just kind of boring football in which we did not learn a lot. Any takeaways? I know, like, highlights, I'm sure we most of us saw, but it doesn't even seem like Thomas Frank had a lot of takeaways. Frankly, he was just happy to, he basically said the physical box has been ticked, so that's a good thing. But Todd, anything you could take away from anything of sort?
I'd be hasty in saying anything too prophetic at this point in time, but I would share that I thought Pop Sarr looked bright. I think that he is someone that, by the nature of the way that Ange played football, kind of got minimized over the course of the last couple of years. And I think that he has a lot of ability and works his socks off for Tottenham. And I think Thomas Frank is the type of manager that can absolutely get the best out of him. So, because I think he's maybe leveled off a little bit from where we originally anticipated his ceiling to be. So maybe we can see some more of that potential. The only other thing that I'll point out is I thought that Kevin Danzo put himself, made a good account of himself in that Luton match. But by and large, this is getting minutes and legs is all this was about. Getting minutes and legs. So most folks, save a doggy, came out of it healthy, or maybe it was Jed Spence. No, I'm kidding. It was obviously a doggy. I think other than his undisclosed issue, I think we came out of it relatively unscathed. Man, We'll see who shows up in this first match on this tour, and I'll let you know how it goes from there. I think that'll tell us a lot about, a few days on, how they're actually feeling after those first couple of matches.
Yeah, and obviously these next couple of matches, despite them for some damn reason being against Arsenal and Newcastle, right? It's Newcastle in the second match. I don't understand that. Obviously, I do understand it. The reason is money, because that's the answer. That's the answer to every question we ask these days. But obviously, it's also still just going to be about getting the physical boxes ticked and getting a little bit more of synchronicity with the club and with new players and with a new system. Caroline, I am probably not going to make the big effort to watch either of these matches, especially with time zones being what they are. But I guess it's a positive that they're doing this, and it's a positive that there are so many minutes to go around for so many different players, even though there are a few players that we'll come onto that are not going to be making the trip over to Asia. But any takeaways on your end from anything here? I guess just trying to figure out what Thomas Frank is going to do in the long term becomes a little bit difficult when, this is not a complete team as of yet, right?
Right. And I think, last week when we had the friendly against Reading, I appreciated kind of the weird, sort of partnerships and lineups that we were seeing. Because it's always good to see how different players are going to, interact together. But I feel like that was not really the case in these friendlies. It did feel a little helter-skelter. And we're going to really need to see the team sort of coalesce as we get into the business end of preseason. Because obviously we want to have a decent idea of who's going to be our starting lineup, at least going into the Super Cup game, because I would like for us to make a good account of ourselves in that match. But I will say I did not wake up for the first friendly this past weekend because it was a 5 a.m. kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
It was also only announced 48 hours before that they were going to play this extra game.
I was not mentally prepared to watch this game, of course.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was mentally prepared to watch this game. So that makes sense.
I did catch the highlights, and I feel like the main takeaways, like Todd said, really was that Sarr is fighting for his shirt in this preseason, which is great to see. I think he has it in him. Brandon Austin did not look good.
No.
Wow.
That was a little shocking.
And then to see the Lille links to Tinsky, I was like, no.
Yeah, we got questions. But the funny thing, though, is that I did watch the second game against Luton Town, and I have even less memory of how that game went. Because as you said, it was
nothing happened.
Very, very dull. I feel like it only kind of picked up right at the end when sort of some of the younger kids came on and were, really energetic and trying things. Oh gosh, who was it? Kieran Martin. I thought he looked pretty bright. But that was really the only thing that stood out to me from that game. So that's probably not a great thing.
Yeah,
that's
what you get in preseason football, though, right?
Exactly. And this is, for the American listeners out there, this was like a split squad game that you see in spring training. And that's exactly how it felt. And so when the only other thing that I want to comment on this is that we didn't really have kind of that attacking midfield presence. Obviously, no Madison, no Decky. That's going to, if you're missing the engine to the car, it's not going to go very fast. So.
Well, and that's made even more scary by the fact that we know now for sure that Morgan Gibbs-White is not going to be coming to Tottenham Hotspur. This was weird too, guys. I all of a sudden, look, last week when we recorded, 8 or 9 days ago, we were all still very confident that this was just a blip in the radar, and that, because the release clause had been triggered, and because Morgan Gibbs-White wanted the move to Spurs, at least as all reports indicated, that this was just a fait accompli. It was going to happen. It was just going to be delayed. And then all of a sudden, last week, we get word that he's signed a new deal with Nottingham Forest. He's in this hostage-like video with the owner, telling everyone great things about the club and about the owner and how wonderful everything is. And everything, I guess, is kumbaya over there at Forest for Morgan Gibbs-White. I don't really know what else to say to this other than I still maintain that this is going to be one of those things that Spurs somehow get blamed for, and I don't know why. Because I don't think that Spurs did anything wrong here. I think they, in fact, were being ambitious and trying to do things the right way, as we've seen them try to do in the past, and then somehow it still is a spectacular failure to get a signing over the line. And I just think that's a bad thing for the narrative, but in reality, which is what we try to deal with here on this very podcast, reality, I can't blame them for this.
No. I you mentioned the video that they put out, and it was super cringe. And I was watching Morgan Gibbs-White's eyes for Morse code as he was blinking, but it was tough. Just kind of that body language did not ooze confidence or excitement to be there. But what it did say is that Nottingham Forest basically beat that man into submission in signing a contract to whatever number he had agreed upon with Daniel Levy. And what we know about Daniel Levy is that he's not going to pay a base salary larger than he needs to. And so he's going to give you a lot of incentives. So, this guy coming in, figuring out, well, what are they actually offering you over there? And being, gregarious as he is, and Morgan tells him, and he goes, well, I'll pay you more than that. Now will you stay? And it's like, and then you write a higher release clause and all the things. And now listen, this is not unprecedented. Tons of players have signed a new deal and said the right things and still managed to get out of that window. It's just a matter of when they actually push that button. Because the thing is, if Morgan decides, like, whatever the terms of the contract is, it's a $100 million release clause, and City comes in and goes, yeah, you know what, we changed our mind. We want some Morgan Gibbs-White at €100 million. He's going. There's nothing that's going to stop him from doing that. And at that point in time, old Mr. Potato Head at Nottingham Forest will just take his $100 million and keep it moving.
Right. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be Spurs at this point, which is
Absolutely
which is the shame. And it even, I think it emphasizes an issue that I think Spurs are dealing with now, Caroline, because as we mentioned, Madison's still working his way back. Decky is still hurt. I don't know where the creativity is in this move. I know we saw Pap Sarr score 2 goals in a preseason friendly, but like, let's be real, Pap Sarr is not a central attacking midfielder in the way that, Madison, Decky, and a Morgan Gibbs-White could be for this club. So I don't know what the pivot is exactly. I know there's a lot of word about maybe a Harvey Elliott deal, or, there's rumors out there, but that's all they are right now, is rumors. Yeah. There's nothing as substantial as there was surrounding Morgan Gibbs-White. So where do we turn, Caroline? I don't like, this feels like a little bit, I know that there's still time. I'm not pressing a panic button like a lot of Spurs fans are, but this does feel like one of those things that needs to be put on the priority list at this point.
Yeah, it does, especially because, obviously it's preseason, so you can't make too much out of that. But I don't feel like Donnelly has looked ready to step up to be sort of that backup option we were hoping. So we're going to have to look to the transfer market.
Played him in left back, for Christ's sake.
Well, that did not help, yes. At least in the one game. But yeah, it's just a situation where we're going to have to go back to the drawing board now. And it's a shame because it seemed like, obviously we're all just reading tea leaves here, but it seemed like Morgan Gibbs-White was open to the move. And the Forest owner is just a weird one. Like, he's got main character energy. You can't reason with someone like that. And it's unfortunate that, this happened to be who we were dealing with. But I got the impression, at least, that he didn't think that Spurs were a club worthy of Gibbs-White. And, we just get to add Forest to our list of many, many enemies in the league, I guess. So that's not great. But yeah, we do have to get another source of creativity into the squad, because as we know, Madison, even when he's fit, which is not always a given, can also blow kind of hot and cold. So I don't feel great about him being like the primary option. And Decky, I don't know. It's still a situation where we don't totally know that that's his best position anyway.
Well, especially in a new system. And that I have a lot of questions about that as well. Like, is Frank going to want him to play more of that traditional wide role like he has been, or be able to move in more centrally? We have so many wide attacking players now that you would think that Decky could just slide over and be fine in more of a central role, but you just never know. And I think that with the adaptability of Frank's system and kind of the way he even chops and changes his formations, Decky will obviously find a home and find playing time somewhere. He's a talented enough player to do it, but you don't want to rely on that being the case, and you don't want to rely on, like you said, Madison, just because of health and like you said, there's a hot and cold streak to him at times. You just want more consistency out of that spot in the park. So that's like you said, it's back to the drawing board, and that's what's tough.
I think I'm going to say a couple of things that give me hope here. The first is that there is still a lot of time.
Yes.
The second is there are still options out there. Like we've already done a deal with West Ham this window. Lucas Paqueta, he's been cleared, so they've put him on the block. But again, we're dealing with character issues there, just like it's a little different than the Harvey Elliott character issues, but character issues nonetheless. So that's kind of tough. But there are other options out there. And then the final thing that gives me optimism here is that Johan Lange has a history of just pulling shit out of nowhere and being like, here's Mickey Van de Ven. And you're like, what did that come from? So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that falls in our lap, where somebody who perfectly fits the profile, but whose name flies under the radar a little bit, drops in our lap with, double-digit assists in the league and 25 goal involvements and all said and done, and you're like, how did we miss this guy? So that's I think there's that guy out there for us. Morgan Gibbs-White is a tough one to mourn, but it has to do, as so much does in this world, with timing. Yeah. The reason why that hit is because we got a Fad Romano, here we go, on the medical within the hours, 12 hours or whatever it was after signing Kudus. And so it was like in that window, the Tottenham sphere had so much hope. And, Daniel Levy's putting his money where his mouth is. They started floating fucking Adam Wharton rumors. And then I'm over here going, please, come on. Now,
those rumors can come back, by the way. I'd enjoy that. That'd be nice.
We've kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. But, like I said, Johan Lange has the ability to pull some rabbits out of hats. Paratici's back in the mix, whatever that means to you. Paratici, Paratici. And I think that means that we've got some feelers for some folks in Italy that may come through towards the end of the window. And then the last thing for me is that I actually like them pivoting over the last couple of weeks to negotiating to some other areas of need. More specifically, that 6. I think João Palhinha is looking more and more likely by all accounts. And I
that
think
feels like another one we've been talking about for weeks, though, too, right?
No, I maybe, right, but that's what we do at this time of year, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that in the last week, I've heard that actual negotiations are taking place, and so that's exciting news. The biggest sticking point is we want him on a loan. Bayern want to get rid of him outright, which we have talked about before, Kaz, and I understand. But he's exactly the type of Daniel Levy signing that we could possibly ask for, right? A guy coming off a shit season, previously successful, looking for a bounce back opportunity to prove himself, will sign a lower guaranteed deal with a higher incentive upside, and he backs himself.
Right.
So that is a Daniel Levy player. And if we're able to do that and get him for right around that 20 million, 24 million range, and be able to actually make a play at a statement signing like a Rodrigo, I think that solves a lot of issues.
That was the next name I was going to bring up. We don't have Scott here this week to give us a tier 1, update, but Rodrigo, like this feels a little bit above the board for me. It feels a little bit like coming out of left field and shooting for the stars, which, look, Tadara's to do and all, but damn, like, what do we say about Rodrigo? Or do we say nothing and just kind of blow it off? And when it doesn't happen, then we don't have our hearts broken like we did with Morgan Gibbs-White. What do you think, Caroline?
Well, I think I'm leaning more towards the don't get your hopes up camp.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
I mean, at least once a window, we get linked with someone who does seem kind of, to put it harshly, like out of our league, perhaps. At least the way we tend to do business. And we've discussed many times, over the last couple seasons that we're slowly but surely starting to change our ways, but we're not totally convinced that we're like, a new club. So I'm still in I'll believe it when I see it territory with him. Obviously it would be a very exciting signing. And, it's I think a situation just where, Real Madrid having just a surplus of talent could be our gain.
Well, I mean, I think they tried to include Mbappe into the mix of ridiculous talent that they already had in winging options and forward options, and Rodrigo's the odd man out. I don't really know how else to explain it. So that doesn't negate his talent at all. But if anything, it makes him another person that we have the ability to potentially sign on a more incentive laden contract, which means lower wages and higher bonus opportunities, which absolutely hits. Because I think he's on something ridiculous at Madrid, because he's at Madrid. And so there'd have to be some make rights in order to pull that off. However, one of the biggest opportunities to do that is the fact that there is a legitimate chance that our beloved young man's son says goodbye this window.
Look at TC just doing the transitions for me. Look at him, man. I'm gonna hand the host and reins over to you one day. Yes. Let's move on to outgoings. It does indeed sound like Heung-min Son is heading to TC's beloved LAFC in about a week. We all knew it wasn't going to be before now because he was contractually obligated, I guess is the way to put it, obligated to go to Asia on this tour, play the game in Hong Kong, play the game in Korea. And it sounds like after that, I mean, I'm not going to say this is signed, sealed, delivered, but it's certainly heated up over the last few days and appears that way. I'll throw my 2 cents in here first. I'm certainly not opposed to this move, but it certainly is one of those that's going to tug at the heartstrings more than any. It feels like time. It feels like the right time, having won something, having done the damn thing, and also just and this is going to sound harsh, but I think it's time physically as well. I think it's time for Son to go to a lesser challenge than the Premier League, because I don't know, especially with all the options that Spurs now have, not only just on the left side at wing, but just attacking options in general. I mean, this team signed Kudus and Tel kind of for this reason, to take over this role, it feels like. And I think the time is now. And if it does happen, which we all believe it will, we will bid him a fond adieu. But it's just the time has come, right, Todd?
Well, yeah. And so players,
and you obviously have a lot extra reason to enjoy this because you're an LAFC guy. So this has got to be exciting for you. Yeah,
it's 100%. Yes, it is. People out here are buzzing because they met with his representation last week and presented the full project to him and want to make him the centerpiece. The Korean population in LA is significant, and he would do incredibly well off the pitch by being in the LA market. And, as far as the going on tour bit is concerned, yes, he's a little bit of a show pony here, but this is kind of very much a fond farewell for a conquering hero for Son in a Tottenham kit. And so I think he's going to relish this opportunity to go out the way that he wants to go out and keep it moving. Now, players in his position have kind of two options at this point in time, right? Like they can go to a Champions League team in a lesser league and try to hang around and be relevant and maybe make one more run in Europe, right? With you think like a Jan Vertonghen to Benfica, right? Where it's like he's going to play every day in Portugal. He's going to play Champions League football. He's going to be at the highest level for one more year, and it's a new challenge. Or you and this is the position that Son is in, is that you go conquer a new market in a lesser league. And I think that, Son's two options where he's going to have the biggest impact on the league and therefore the most marketability, and because of that, the most negotiation power, is either the Saudi league, because they play in the AFC, right? The Asian Federation Champions League. And so that's a massive draw. Obviously, Son's the biggest footballer in Asia, or the US, because the margins are so high. So, and obviously in the Korean market in LA. So I'm amped for Sonny to be able to be in a position to make this choice. I feel thankful.
Not everyone gets that option,
Right. Well, Kaz, I think the best way to describe my feelings in this is it's not sad. I'm thankful. I'm thankful that we get to give Sonny the type of send-off that he deserves.
I'm sad.
I knew that was coming. I knew Caroline was about to say she was sad.
I'm trying to be respectful and listen to everything Todd has to say, but I feel very sad about this. And part of it also is that I'm going through the exact same thing with Bayern, with Thomas Muller leaving and also potentially going to MLS, and just feeling like neither of them, I feel like, are really at MLS level yet. I feel like they can still play above that. Unless we want to have a conversation about MLS trying to get serious, which is like a whole other. We could be here for hours.
I will shut that shit down immediately.
Well, yeah, so we won't be here for hours talking about that, but it's just, it feels very complicated, and I feel like I've been going through like advanced stages of grief, like bargaining, denial, and I'm trying to accept the fact that it's good, like Todd said, that this is his decision. He can make it without any sort of like emotional baggage being left behind at Tottenham, because we did win the Europa League last season. So if he leaves,
and he was captain.
Yeah, so he's going out on a high. Like, that's all great. I don't know. I think it'd probably always be too soon for me with Sonny.
I think that's the saving grace for me, is that he captained this club to its first trophy in more than a decade and a half. Like that carries so much weight for me, and it feels so different than the Harry Kane departure, for example, which was just so awkward. And it's also very weird that on this very podcast we had both of these legendary players going now to clubs that, secondary clubs that you all root for. Like, I love that for you guys, but like it's still, it feels so much different than that, because the Harry Kane move just felt so forced and so like rammed down our throats.
Like he wanted to leave us.
Right. And wanted to leave us because of a lack of what?
For greener pastures.
Right. But then the greener pastures eventually did come by way of Son helping this club. And, not that Son was the greatest contributor on the pitch last season, but he captained this club and was the leader of this club in so many different ways. And I think that's what, and Son is just obviously, an A+ human being. We saw this week, he did the video for the UN World Food Program calling for donations because of starving children in Gaza. Like, this is just a top tier human being. And that's, I think, the part that makes it so much harder to see him walk out the door, but it's also one that I can appreciate with gratitude because of everything he gave to the club.
And just sitting here thinking about it too, if he does decide to leave, I feel like part of that is going to be him wanting to see the players who were brought into the club, like tell Odegaard, Kudus, like to let them take over that position, like have their moment to shine. I feel like he's not the kind of player who's going to want to stand in, someone else's way if he feels like he can't do the job himself, which I don't know. Again, I still feel like he has something to contribute, but I know not a lot of Tottenham fans feel that way anymore. So
it's really hard because he's not a touchline winger, Caroline. And that's the last 2 years, and just made him standing with his heels on the touchline. And that's not the player that Youngman's Son is. And
but
so
he could have better opportunities this season under Frank. So that's why, it is just so complicated.
Agreed, because the other side of that coin is there is no denying the fact that he doesn't get to the byline as quick as he used to. He doesn't beat his man as often as he used to, and he's not nearly as deadly in front of the goal as he used to be. And so all of those things say to me it's about that time, regardless of what position you play. The opportunities that Son had over the course of the last year, he squandered more than he succeeded. So you're right, it's complicated. But I think that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with you as well that it will always be too soon for a lot of folks, because he is our living legend, right? Like, if you think back in the history of this club, like, as much as you appreciate Harry Kane as the greatest goal scorer that this club's ever seen, you remember this era more fondly for Son.
100%.
And so that I think that just like I think this is a good comp. He reminds me very much of the tenure of Ledley King. We had much better players in the Berbatovs and the Robbie Keanes and the Modric's and the Bales, but the captain, the guy that everybody says this is the guy, was Ledley King. And there's that lasting image of Ledley and Robbie Keane shaking the life out of the League Cup that's imprinted in our minds as Tottenham fans, where they're up on that presentation step at Wembley. And we have that now with Bilbao and Sonny lifting that glorious trophy so vigorously that he smacked himself in the head with it.
Can never take that away. You can never take the championships away, and that's the beauty of it. Guys, in terms of other outgoings, we mentioned earlier the rumors about Anton and Kinski potentially getting a loan move to Lille. That's something that makes me nervous, purely based on the lack of quality behind him in Brandon Austin. I do, however, think it would be a good move for him if that's going to be something that gets him playing time. It's just the worry about a potential injury to Vicario, which I know we just saw last season, and that's part of the reason that we were introduced to Kinski. But I think I'd rather have Kinski stick around, although, like I said, I do think if you can get this guy decent enough playing time, and hopefully, I think that's the only thing that's going to improve his shot stopping, which we talked about a lot last week. The difference between Vicario and Kinski is the shot stopping for Kinski needs to improve. Everything else seems like it is on track to be very, very good. The ball handling, the distribution, the comfort with the ball at his feet is all there. But would anybody be interested in a Kinski loan at this point, or is it too scary with, like I said, Brandon Austin then sitting behind?
Well, we'd have to bring in another, keeper to be, I would assume, second keeper, because I don't think the club's
to be
gonna
Fraser
feel
Forster, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. And we saw how difficult that was.
It was
last season. So I don't feel great about the idea of him going out on loan. I feel like we're gonna have enough games that he's gonna get game time. Especially with being, wanting to take the cup seriously, not just the Champions League. I feel like we're going to see, some real effort put into the domestic cups as well. So he's going to get games.
Yeah, I gave a long, hard think on this one yesterday, Andrew, and a big part of the reason why is because I love everything about Anton Kinski, save his woeful shot stopping. I mean, it's tough. And just like I love everything about Vicario, except for his inability to catch the hidden ball.
Yeah.
But the reason why I thought so long and hard about this is because you need to give Kinski not just game time, but confidence, right? You need to give him consistent games where he's not looking over his shoulder with a guy wearing number 1 on his back, ready to walk back in between the sticks.
I would agree.
So that's why I'm over here going, well, I mean, it's a risky move, but, not to carry Brandon Austin and Luka Gunter as your 3 goalkeepers to go along with Vicario. But it's not unprecedented. I mean, shit, we started Fraser Forster in a knockout round of a fucking competition in Europe. So what are you going to do?
But that's what we're trying to avoid this time
I
around.
don't know, but this is my whole point, brother, is that
Yeah.
like you have two options, and I find myself in Kaz's camp here, which is not surprising to me, which is he's going to get enough games. We want to compete in 4 competitions. We have confidence in this guy's ability. We built a squad with depth. Play the fucking kids. So
I'm with both of you there. The other rumor, and a guy who didn't go on the Asian tour as well, is Mikey Moore. Rumors circulating that he's going to do a loan move, possibly to Rangers. I kind of thought Mikey Moore might be a part of the first team squad this season, but I guess a loan move isn't the worst idea. I don't know about a loan move to Rangers, but thoughts, TC? This is one that I'm kind of shrugging about as well, right?
No, don't shrug too hard. This is Jamie Donnelly's League One move last year, right? Like, this is your this age and this profile bracket. I need you to go play men's football week in and week out and learn how to do this game for a living. You have all the potential in the world. You hung out with the first team. You saw what it was like to live the Premier League life. Now go on your stripes. And that is where professional footballers are made. Go on your stripes. So I don't think that a move to Rangers is a good one for Mikey Moore, because I feel like his level is above the Scottish Premiership. No disrespect to the 7 Irish listeners that we have listening to this podcast, or Scottish listeners, excuse me. But I think that he would benefit from going to the continent and playing like Alfie Devine did, right? Like playing men's football in the Eredivisie, which is a great opportunity for him to play, week in and week out at a level that is, in physicality that is comparable to England. But it's out of the limelight too. That's the other thing, is it's out of the bullshit of those guys past their prime trying to give you an extra knock because you're the next big thing. It's just dudes in a different country playing football. So
yeah, that's true. And my shrugging, by the way, it's not dismissive. It's more just like, I guess so. Like I'm not opposed to him going. Trust me. It's just more of a sure, I guess. If he's not going to be here, if he's not going to get the minutes as a part of the first team, absolutely go get your minutes elsewhere. So I'm certainly not opposed. It's more just I want to make sure that there's gonna be a lot of games this season, just like there were last year. I want to make sure there's enough bodies to cover all of those minutes, because I guess I'm also, part of me is very much scarred from the injuries that this team has endured over the last 2 seasons, and hopefully that can be somewhat mitigated by not only better training staff and better medical team and all the changes that have been made there, but also just a different style of play that's going to
more sustainable tactics, Andrew.
Yes, thank you for shrinking that down and not letting me ramble. Caroline, any thoughts on this, on more a potential move? I mean, it seems like sure.
Yeah, just exactly what y'all said. I think a loan is needed for experience. I maybe would have picked a different team, but hopefully he's able to make the most of it.
Yeah, I hear you. Where are we going next, guys? I guess the only other thing to mention about this tour, a couple of other players not making the trip just because of injury rehab, like Kulusevski, Dragishin. The new signing, Kota Takai, is also recovering, and he's remaining back at Hotspur Way recovering. But yeah, Spurs will play Thursday. Arsenal is the opponent in Hong Kong, and then they will travel to Seoul, South Korea, and play Newcastle on Sunday. So those games can be watched on Spurs Play if you are one that pays for that service. But that's pretty much all we got on the men's side. I do want to talk a little bit of Spurs women here before we get going. They've been back in training all week, all last week, kind of the full kickstart. Now that the Euros is out of the way, by the way, congratulations once again to the Lionesses. Wow is all I can say. Beating Spain in that way is something. I caught the tail end of extra time and the penalty kicks, but my goodness, that was quite something, and back-to-back European championships for England. But now that Euros is out of the way, the preseason will really start to ramp up, and obviously there are only a few players for Spurs women that were involved in the tournament, so they'll be returning to the club over the next few weeks after a little bit of time off as well. But The big news is, number one, fixtures are out. The WSL fixtures were released this week, and Spurs are going to open up the season at home against West Ham. That match is scheduled for Sunday, September 7th. Obviously, there's not a whole lot to break down with a fixture list, Caroline. They're going to play every team twice, which is how it goes, obviously. But the first North London derby will be Spurs hosting Arsenal Sunday, November 16th. No word about any games yet being played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That normally doesn't come when the fixtures come out. They've got to see where they're all going to be scheduled and see what they can fit in. But I would hope that game does get some treatment, some stadium treatment, and we hope some other games do as well. But any takeaways from the fixture list? Again, there's not a lot to break down per se, but I did happen to look to see the London City matches too. That was one thing I did want to look at, because I'm going to be very interested to see their inclusion into this league and how that they shape out, especially with all the money that they're spending.
Yeah, speaking of London City Lionesses, we play them, I think, at home, yes, on the second to last match day. So I was kind of targeting that as one that would be great for the main stadium, kind of a send-off home game.
Sure.
Otherwise, I feel like the schedule's pretty balanced. It doesn't feel like, there's a little bit towards the end of the schedule where I think we play like Man City away, Arsenal away, and then United at home, with like possibly an FA Cup quarterfinal in between, we hope.
We hope.
So that could be a really stressful time of the season, but otherwise it's really not that bad. And I actually liked that the opening weekend, kind of across the league, they've got a bunch of different rivalries going on. So it's going to be really exciting across the board. Another thing I read is that they're going to have a lot more games at the Sunday noon UK time slot. That's going to be like a new regular slot, which means really early kickoffs for us here. But I guess good, consistency for the fans who are actually going to the matches. I'm sorry, I'm losing my headphones entirely. And yeah, otherwise, like you said, I'm looking forward to seeing the London City fixtures, because they just keep making more and more signings, and meanwhile here we are with one. So
yeah, that is something too that needs to ramp up soon.
Yeah.
Obviously the window, the transfer window on the women's side does go out a little bit further than on the men's side. I think it's another 2 weeks or so longer, because it's the season is starting later as well. But yeah, that's something that certainly needs to get going. The one bit of news we did get on that end of things is that Luana Buller had her contract option extended through next summer. I guess not something I was aware of that needed to be done, but she has had her contract extended through next summer. Has only made 30 appearances since signing from Hoffenheim in July of 2023. There's been a lot of injury concerns with her, and of course she was ruled out of the European Championship with a knee issue, and she underwent surgery for it. So that was news that was broken last week as well, but she is commencing rehab immediately. Who knows when we will see Luana Buller back actually on the pitch, but this was news that broke last week where I was like, okay, more injury issues. And we knew that she was missing Euros with an injury, but the fact that a surgery was involved means this could be a little bit more of a layoff than even first expected, right?
Yeah, at least we know that it's not an ACL. So that's a big relief, since we've already got Ella Morris, who's going to be missing most likely most of the season with her own ACL. It's never pleasant to have the surgery photo Instagram post surprise laid on you. I feel like that happens more often on the men's side. So I wasn't expecting it for Luana. So that was really, really rough. But I don't know. I just hope that this is going to be an opportunity for her to come back stronger than before, because like you said, she's really not had enough game time. I didn't realize it was quite that few games. That is pretty stark. So yeah, hopefully it's not going to be too long and she can come back and actually be fit and raring to go.
Well, and it feels like the center back position for this team has been the real bugaboo. Like, they have not been able to find a proper pairing, and when she was in there and I wouldn't say playing consistently because there's never really been a great consistent stretch of games, but when she's been in there, it's looked fine. It's looked good. And she was supposed to be an important signing when she was brought in from Hoffenheim, but it hasn't kicked on. And hopefully with this season and the contract extension, maybe she can kick on and maybe move on from there and maybe even stick around long term, but we'll have to wait and see. And obviously wait and see for more signings on that end as well. Anything else we need to get off our chest before I think we can move to wrap here. Do we have anything else we need to chat about? Todd, you got any wild questions for us at the end of the pod here?
Well, I mean, the Rodrigo rumor is heating up. And so my question really is, if in the span of a week Son leaves, yet we sign Rodrigo, will that help ease the pain?
1,000,000% yes. If we sign Rodrigo, I will be dancing through the streets naked. Yes.
Well, for me, it's like 100% no, but
I mean, come on. Look, I'm already considering dancing through the streets naked because I'm dealing with East Coast humidity this week, which is some bullshit. I'm going to tell you right now. I have lived in Arizona now for about 15 years or so and have been away from this mid-Atlantic, East Coast, sticky, hot crap. And it's awful. So to those of you who still endure the humidity, I know it's hot everywhere. It's America in the summer, but like the humidity part of it is an absolute nightmare. So to anyone who still has to deal with that, I commend you. And I also offer my condolences because it's been brutal this week. I want you all to know that I think I've lost many pounds in sweat, not to gross everyone out here at the end of the pod, but that is what's been going on in my neck of the woods. So it's been pretty brutal.
Sweaty Andrew dancing naked through the streets when we sign Rodrigo. There you go.
You know what?
There's your image on the way out.
Here first.
If you didn't want to have to picture that at the end of the Tottenham Depot podcast, then you're not really a true fan. That is going to do it for this week's edition. We will hopefully be back with you next week. I think we can probably manage to squeeze in a pod at some point next week and talk about these two matches and hopefully some more signings and whatever else is going on in the world of Tottenham Hotspur. We will be sure to cover it then. For Todd, he can be found at TC_Kasho. You can follow Caroline at CG Stefko. You can follow me at Aestetka, and you can follow us at Tottenham Depot on all the socials. Until next week, we will talk to you then. This has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.